Okay, guys, we need to talk for a few minutes about camera placement in the room. So, ideal locations for cameras, if you have how many cameras, where they need to be to get the right shots, that kind of thing. So, Rusty, I know you've always dreamed about being a telestrator, like sports commentator. So we've got the screen here that you can actually draw on. So we're going to talk about scenarios, and you guys give us your best practices.
So we're just going to throw scenarios from really small applications to we'll get crazy.
All right.
So
I like crazy.
What if a church just got their very first camera, maybe they're even a portable campus, and it's just a feed that's going online for people that couldn't be there? Where do you put that camera?
Cool. So they're one camera, they're broadcasting it, streaming it. I don't guess it really matters if it's also IMAG, maybe not.
Probably not.
Probably
not IMAG. I mean, if I got one camera, and again, the whole foundation of all of this is trying to tell the story that's happening on the stage and in the room. I mean, your probably best bet is going to be somewhere on the center line, near front of house or wherever you can get it. But, you know, I might put one camera right there, assuming it's a tripod or maybe it's a PTZ or something. And I would want it to be centered so that I can get a wide shot of the stage for worship or for whatever scenario that's up. And then I could also, if I've got enough length on that lens, get a nice shot for my talking head stuff.
Great.
Yeah.
So now when we add a second camera, what are you thinking about in terms of how that one might change or where the second one might go?
So again, small church, maybe they're thinking about IMAG now, maybe it's not, but still, it's going to the web, it's going to Facebook.
That's tough. You got one more.
Okay, so also, opinions may differ, and that's okay.
Yeah.
There's gonna be so many different ways to do this.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're theorizing off of, you know, a blank canvas. I don't know what the stage looks like. I don't know what the room looks like.
It definitely depends on what the room looks like, how far the stage is from the room, and honestly, how much, you know, there's some places that you might be where the pastor's like, hey, listen, I only want to show the stage and that's it. Like, don't show anything on the sides, you know, don't show the boxes that we don't have any room to put these chairs or boxes. Right. Yeah. So don't show these. So placement is very subjective in that area.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, no, go ahead.
If I was going to add another one and I had, you know, let's say I don't have any limitations about handheld versus not, or you know, ops can go wherever they want. I would probably say, okay, let's just try to figure out what our second camera be handheld for worship, and maybe that handheld for worship is on stage, or it could be anywhere out in the house to show people worshiping. And then when it comes time for the talk, I would, you know, set it on sticks. Yeah. Maybe at front of house. Maybe if my room played well, or maybe I had a pastor that liked to speak this direction, then maybe I would put it over here somewhere. I would kind of keep those things in mind. But it'd be awesome if I could basically, you know, kill two birds with one stone. Let this camera be mobile during worship, put it on sticks for the talk.
Put it on sticks, yeah.
And you get the best of both worlds.
Okay, so with two cameras, you could potentially make this look like you got 4 or 5.
Totally.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, especially if you got one that's mobile.
Yeah. If you have a really good operator on that handheld, you could make it look like 3 or 4 different things throughout the worship set.
Right.
And this is a good thing, too, to talk about, where if you do have 2 good ops, there was one, as a boss, I made the mistake of giving everybody a Christmas break, except for one op. So I ended up having to lock off cameras, but I had one op, and our production director, who used to do handheld, got on mobile and was roaming around the stage running back and forth, and a really good op that was on sticks, that was our main follow, and that op would basically give me a bunch of shots. So I'd take a full tight shot. I'd cut away, she'd pull out to stage wide. You know, so giving options and then making it still feel like there's a lot of cameras happening, and, you know, definitely that worship experience without having a ton of cameras. This is great too. I always love a good 45-degree angle. And then if you just having your two cameras here for the message, I would do either a head to toe and then your tight shot.
Right. And for me, the reason being tight helps convey emotion, helps convey facial expression. There's so much nonverbal communication that tight shot you can capture in a tight shot. Then also, like for my pastor, there's a lot of movement, right? Hands go wide, hands go up. I can have that wider head to toe that allows me to capture that movement. Because if there's a bunch of stuff happening out of frame, it's really confusing for your viewer.
That's really good. Okay, so now let's scale it up a little bit more. So let's say we're in a larger room now. Let's say we've got a 1,000-seat room with IMAG. We've got now 3 or 4 cameras.
Yeah, like 4 cameras. It seems like a lot of churches with IMAG about that size, 4 is a safe number we would see.
Cool. Reset. I mean, I think your center line camera 1 is always you kind of just need that. It's your base, your foundation to build off of. And then if I've got a big room, I'm IMAG, I'm also broadcasting. I guess I would want to think through a checklist. What are the things I need, or what are the things I want to accomplish in order to tell my story? In order to do a good broadcast cut, I need good wide shots. Wide shots show me the energy in the room. They help establish, where you are, so the viewer is not only seeing a bunch of tight shots. So I need that somewhere. I need, like we just talked about with our second camera, I think I need some good different angles, some mobility for worship. And then how can I also capture my talk well? So I don't know, there's a lot of different ways to go about this. Let's say you don't have unlimited budget, so maybe a dolly and stuff like that isn't really in your budget. So I would probably also still want to try the mobile and stick option. One camera that does both. So I may have, let's say, a camera 2 that's out in the house, mobile, walking around up and down the aisles, shooting through hands. Love that kind of energy. Feels very concert footage-ish. Helps people, if I can see people in the foreground worshiping, it helps the viewer watching know that, oh, it's okay to worship, right?
Yep.
Maybe I would have something on the stage, like a roaming camera to get drum shots or guitar shots or just closer, more intimate worship leader shots. And then if I really do need a good broadcast, or if I need to edit this content later and have a wide shot so that I can find edit points in my footage, I would, try to maybe go off to the side like this and shoot this way so I can see the stage and see the back of the room. This could be a jib. This could be just a stick that has a wide lens that you can get different shots with.
And that way it also shows the room. It really showcases the people worshiping and really showcasing how, not necessarily the size of the room, but really just establishing like, hey, this is what we're here for.
It's a corporate experience.
It's a corporate experience,
right? Like it's personal, but also corporate.
Yes.
I think one of the things that, the whole IMAG versus broadcast discussion, I've gone different ways over my career, and I used to always think the IMAG needs to be tight, and then through passion and doing arenas and doing stadiums, started having discussions, and someone who was like, one of my leaders that really built into me, Jonathan Sheehan, was like, yeah, I get that, but what about the person who's sitting on the front row who already sees the tight shot, and they're missing the 10,000 people behind them in the corporate experience, right?
So they don't need IMAG because they're right in front of the stage.
They need to see that, oh, there's a bunch of people in this together. We're a family, we're in corporate worship.
Because that's, and my philosophy is I want the people at home to feel like what it's like in the room, but I want the people in the room to feel like what it's like in the room, like feel like what it's like on stage, feel what it's like if I was way in the back, to see that, encapsulate that whole experience.
That's really good.
I think just, again, you can move this over here, have a second stick during the talk so you have some flexibility there.
And then in that scenario, would you take camera 3 then from the stage and put it somewhere else so you have 3 cameras for the talk? Or
if you've got that option, go for
you could do even on stage, just keep it on stage and do a reverse shot, of your pastor, over the shoulder shots of your pastor speaking to the crowd.
We'll use it a lot. Like if our pastor has a prop that Sunday, we want to be able to get like a nice detail shot of whatever that prop is. Then you've got that camera there ready to do it.
Okay, so now let's have a little fun. This won't apply to most, but Chad at Bethel, it's about a 1,000-seat room, and you did events with 10 cameras in a 1,000-seat room. So, like, what would that look like for you?
Yeah, at that point, it becomes, what do I actually want to capture and how much of it I want to capture? So, you definitely have we would have 3 cameras on stage at that point. So, you have a cam here, cam here, cam here. And the way the stage at Bethel was always, drums would be on this side, keys, violin, electric on this side, and then you have your profile down the line shot of your worship leaders. And then we would also do a dolly or a track here. We would have a cable cam, basically, that went this way.
That would go all the way across the
all the
room.
way across the rim. And then we still had our standard follow there. And then we would actually just off to the side here put another camera there. Sometimes a jib, depending on how we wanted to show the excitement of the room or things that happen. But all this now becomes tiny little zones for your camera ops. So like that's their focus. That's all they're focused on. This camera would be our camera one. Hey, just give me
down the line.
Down the line, and every once in a while, hey, yeah, show me crowd, keys, guitar, that's it.
Yeah.
But it also gave me the opportunity now to tell a more in-depth story during worship, to actually showcase, hey, I'm hearing guitar. Let's really show that. Let's really get in tight on that.
Yeah.
And then come out to a nice wide shot of somebody worshiping, And at the same time, we did have roamers. We had two roaming cameras out in the crowd to get reverse shots of the crowd, things like that. And even that too is really subjective to your house. Not a lot of people are going to want shots of the crowd from the front. Especially if you're doing IMAG, what's on your program. Mm-hmm. So I usually stick to just reverse shots. I rarely get shots of people worshiping at the front because then they get self-conscious, things like that.
Those shots are good to use in post later.
Yeah.
Highlight videos, recaps, or, it's going on YouTube in a month, something like that.
Yeah. So even in a small room, you could get away with using 10 cameras. But then that's where it just becomes specialized. Like, this is all you're focused on.
Yeah.
And as a director, then it gives you more options to kind of really pull out certain moments of a worship song, And then we don't necessarily keep all 10 for the message, that we'll drop down to 3 cams or 4 cams at max, really.
And I think a setup like this is really a good way for a church that may do a big special event or a special conference to think in more creative ways. It may not be necessarily for every Sunday or every experience, but to think about this as a creative way to add something to a Christmas service or an Easter program or,
that's how it
or a
came out.
conference.
That's how it came out to be. Like, the only reason we would go with this was for a special conference. Normal Sundays, it's only 5 cameras, maybe 6, but 5 cameras max.
Yeah, our base at Passion is 6 cameras, and then we grow from there. It's so easy these days to just rent some cameras, rent some lenses, especially if you have, more of the cinematic, not the broadcast style equipment. Mm-hmm. There's so many options out there, so we can easily grow to 10 or 12 if we need to.
So the why behind your choices here, Rusty, is that similar how you would do it at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium? 80,000 people, that's ridiculously big. Like, how do you tell that story? Is it the same idea, putting everything in zones?
Yeah, it's definitely, it's really similar. It's, it's the concepts are the same, you just scale them, right? So it's a bigger room, and I have different areas of maybe that I need to focus on. I need to get a full stage wide. I also need to get, there's a B stage over on this other end of the stadium, so I need to have something that can capture that B stage well, tight and wide. I need to be able to get, super wides of the arena. If you want it to feel like there's 80,000 people there, you got to show all 80,000 people. So where do you put the camera as far away in the back of the room as you can get it and find a good angle to get that? But at the same time, you still want tight shots, because if you're sitting in that arena and you're in the nosebleeds, you want to be able to see a tight shot.
IMAG is really important.
IMAG's super important, right?
Yeah.
So it's all the same stuff. It's just, you just have to get more of them because you have more space to cover it. And also when we do a big stadium like that, we go from 7 people on stage to 15 people on stage. So you want to have more cameras to cover all those different people.
And I think it really gets to also when you're going bigger into a bigger arena or bigger stage, to really communicate well and have meetings with everybody on the team. Because as a director, I could easily go, I'm going to this camera here, and it's going to look great there. And then you end up like somebody else is like, I was actually supposed to have stage equipment there, or I was supposed to have. So really communicating with everybody at that point to, hey, this is where I'm plotting out cameras. Does this work?
I've had so many just that reminded me. I remember several times I would get the CAD drawing, get the plot, and I was like, okay, this is great. I can work off of this. I would find a spot for a wire cam, and then we'd load it in. And I was like, okay, great. Your cable pick is right there in front of my wire cam. Right? Like, why didn't nobody tell me this? Why didn't I ask that question?
Yeah.
You know, so it kind of
together. Yeah. So even when you're plotting out, like as a director, think about the broad spectrum of everything, not just your shots. And like, oh, this is going to look really cool here. Yeah, it could. But then at what cost?
Well, I'm not moving the PA for your cable cam.
Right.
So
Totally.
Well, Chad, I hear you talk about that a lot when you talk in general about the importance of communication and understanding the vision. So whether you're a small church with one camera going only to Facebook, or whether you're a mega church with 7 or 8 cameras cutting for IMAG and broadcast and all that, at the core of all of it is understanding the vision of where leadership wants our visuals and our storytelling to go. And if you sort of start with that fundamental, then it really doesn't matter how much gear you have. It's just, okay, we're partnering together to tell a story together, and we're going to use technology to make that happen.
Yes, completely. Yeah. We have to remember that we're the lens of the church. So we're the only way people can see what's happening at your church is through you and your department. But you also got to make sure that you're not, for lack of a better way of saying it, you're not telling your story, but you're telling the house's story.